Hey, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new, then welcome. I make lifestyle and mommyhood videos, and if you could hit that subscribe button, I would love it so that you always know when I upload a new video. Today's video has been long overdue, so it's kind of a story time. I will put as many pictures and videos that I have in here as well, but I never did a birth story for my first daughter. And now that I am 37 weeks pregnant with our second little girl, I definitely think it's time to do this video because how things went with my first experience have really shaped what I plan for this next birth experience. So if you haven't watched my previous videos, then you probably do not know, but I am planning on having a cesarean this time around. The first time around, I did not plan on having a cesarean, but I did end up having one. And that is what I want to do this time around. It is different since it is a planned cesarean. There is more that I know I have to do to prepare, and on top of that, with COVID, there's those extra steps as well. So I figured this could be a bit of a first birth story as well as what I'm planning on doing to prepare for this second birth. So my daughter Alani was due on June 8th, and on June 7th is actually when I started having contractions. That night my contractions started to definitely get stronger. I did start tracking them, and by midnight I felt that it was time to go into the hospital. So baby girl definitely was ready to go for her due date. I didn't really go in with any sort of birth plan. I knew I wanted delayed cord clamping. I knew that I wanted to be able to breastfeed as soon as possible. But other than that, I was very much like, whatever needs to happen will happen. And I wasn't really set on too many different things. Oh, except the epidural. I definitely knew I wanted an epidural. So when we arrived to the hospital, I was not yet 4 centimeters dilated, but they were still able to give me the epidural because I was having very strong contractions at that point, and I was close enough. Once I had the epidural, I felt like I was able to relax. I had been a little bit nervous. You watch videos or you read the horror stories and you're like, oh my goodness, what if I'm having a contraction and I need to stay still during this epidural? It ended up being completely fine for me. Obviously, that's my own personal experience, but it really wasn't that bad at all for me. So I hope for anyone watching this who is nervous, I hope that that helps a little bit, and I hope that it isn't a terrible experience for you. Obviously, everyone is different. So once I got the epidural, I was actually able to fall asleep because my contractions were not driving me crazy. I was able to get some rest, and that's kind of when things started getting a little more tough. I remember just waking up to a bunch of voices, noise, lights, all of that, a bunch of just people rushing into the room. I didn't really know what was happening. I was just being flipped around, moved around, doing different positions and all of this stuff. They broke my water, and basically what they were trying to do was to get Alani's heart rate back up. It had dropped, it was dropping with my contractions, and they just were trying to make sure everything was okay, which it ended up being okay. But I still was not ready to deliver, and my contractions were not making it a good situation for Alani. So they ended up giving me something, I do not remember the name, but it was supposed to help to slow down my labor, slow down my contractions, and kind of just make things a little bit easier on the baby. I will say that was kind of a scary experience, just because I didn't know what was happening. It was such a rush of energy and commotion. So, I mean, I held it together for a good bit, but I remember when the nurse came in to check and just see that everything was okay, I just like broke down and started crying. Like I could not just hold in my emotion anymore because it was scary. I didn't know what was happening. And then after that, I feel like we were just watching the monitors. I had my husband there, and I had my mom, my dad, my mother-in-law, and my sister-in-law. I did get to the point where my contractions were not progressing. So after slowing everything down, they had to speed it back up again. And they gave me Pitocin, and that was kind of just when it really started more with her heart rate dropping and kind of just a roller coaster of emotions at that point. By 11:30 that morning, so June 8th, I wasn't even 8 centimeters dilated. And the doctor kind of just came to me and was like, you've kind of stalled at this point. We can continue going if you want, or we could do a C-section. And I mean, without even hesitating, my husband and I were definitely for the cesarean. It just was too much at that point, waiting and just worrying about her heart rate, and I just wanted it done. So I had planned for my mom and my husband to be there for a vaginal delivery, but unfortunately with a cesarean you can only have one person, and I did choose my husband to be there for that. I wish I could say it was smooth sailing from there, but it started out pretty good. I was moved to the operating room, everything got started, and I do remember when she came out, hearing that first cry, like my husband and I just both burst into tears. It was just the absolute best. But not very long after that, I started feeling really nauseous. I remember Evan was actually holding Alani and wanted me to look at her, and I just felt so sick that I couldn't even turn my head to look at my baby. Like, I just was like, I'm going to be sick. This is not okay. Like, it just wasn't the best situation for sure. And then it kind of went a little downhill from there. I laugh now, but I was in excruciating pain. They were trying to sew me up and I could feel everything. And I will say at that point, like, I remember the pain and that's all I remember. They ended up having to put me under completely because the epidural had basically stopped working at that point and they needed to sew me back up. Since I was put under, it did take a little bit of time for me to wake up again. And honestly, I guess the silver lining was that Evan got that extra time with Alani. So he got that one-on-one time with her, and I was actually really happy with the hospital because I did really want to breastfeed, and they waited for me to wake up. They didn't try to do anything on their own, which was great. So I was able to still be the first one to feed my baby. And she was definitely hungry at that point. Honestly, as rocky as that was, everything else went fine from there. My recovery went well. Alani didn't really have any issues. And my experience at the hospital while I was recovering was a good one as well. She did have her first bath at the hospital, which was nice because we were able to record that, and we have that we look back on. It's such a cute video, and she's just so little. It's so crazy to think that we'll have another one that's going to be that little as well. So yes, things could have gone better. I think going in and not having a strict plan though kind of helped me not feel too frazzled about it all. And when I look back on it, I still do think of it as a good experience in general. It obviously could have been way worse. She and I both left the hospital healthy. So now that I am on my second pregnancy, I definitely had the option for a VBAC. I have friends who have decided to go that route, but for me, that just wasn't what I want to do. I know that in telling this story, my C-section experience wasn't the best, but for me, like, that was me. That was my pain and my nausea and all of that kind of stuff. Whereas the contractions that I was having as I was planning for a vaginal birth were things that were affecting my baby. And that was a lot harder for me to deal with than anything that happened during my cesarean. So I know that there's a very good chance that everything could go well and I could have a wonderful vaginal delivery. But I honestly don't even want to go down that road. I would rather have a cesarean this time around, so I have scheduled my cesarean, and since it is scheduled, there are just things that are a little different, so I figured I would at least share in this video what I know I'm required to do to prep for my C-section and things that I'm just choosing to do to prep as well. So I printed this out from Kindred Bravely's website, and I figured it would just be good to fill out. It's got different things that you can check for what you want for pain relief, prior to delivery what you want, during delivery what you want, immediately following delivery, and during your recovery, like what your preferences are. And it's specifically for a cesarean, which I've just found it's not easy to find information and help and guidance when it comes to a cesarean. So I was really happy that I was able to find this. I will link the page in my description so that you are able to find it as well if you are planning for a cesarean, or even if you're not, just so that you have this in case that ends up being what happens for you. But I'm gonna make sure that my husband knows this information as well, and that it's in my hospital bag, which I have yet to pack. I'm 37 weeks pregnant. My cesarean is scheduled for 39 weeks, and I have not packed my hospital bag yet. I think I have this false sense of like, I have the date for the cesarean and this is just going to be when she comes. And I definitely need to get things together because yes, there's a chance that she could come sooner. And I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I haven't even dropped, but it could happen. So I really do need to get on that. My next video will probably be a what's in my hospital bag. Hopefully that'll motivate me to actually pack this hospital bag. But anyway, this is just what I want to do. I'll talk real quick about what I need to do from the hospital. They did give me a special wash that I am supposed to be using. Again, I did not have a scheduled cesarean the first time around, so this kind of stuff is new. So 3 days, I believe it is, before my cesarean date, I'm supposed to be using this wash. I'm supposed to change all of my bedding and have just clean sheets that I don't have to change again, but I am supposed to be starting fresh with clean sheets and using this wash up until I actually do deliver. I already have scheduled my COVID test because that has to be done before I go in for my scheduled delivery as well. So I do have that already scheduled, and then I also have to get lab work done before I go in, and that I don't have to schedule. I can walk into my hospital. I have the script that I have to take with me for them to do the blood work, but all of those things have to be done before I show up at the hospital for the cesarean. Obviously, if I went into labor early, it is what it is, and they'll figure it out. But since I am scheduled for a certain date, there are certain things lined up that I am expected to do and get done before I go in. I will talk about it more in my hospital bag video, but at this point, my husband will have to stay. I am going to be trying my best to just stay home. Like, I have delivery pickups for groceries and stuff like that, but I really just do not want to go out. If I do test positive for COVID, my husband cannot be with me. They've let me know that a positive COVID test does mean that there is no support person allowed. And I would never want that to be the case because I do want my husband there by my side. So I am going to do whatever I can, and so is he, to make sure that we are hardly leaving the house and definitely not in contact with other people. Again, as I said, outside of just grocery pickup and that kind of stuff. I have a few meals that I have planned that I want to have ready to go for postpartum. So I do need to get like grocery pickup so I can have those prepped and ready to go so that I can freeze them. I think I'll probably do a video on that as well. It just really depends on how much I have going on. I feel like we are down to the wire now that it is 2 weeks until we are supposed to meet this baby. And again, I have not packed my hospital bag. We still have not gotten all of our new carpeting on the second floor. And once that's done, I would like to work on the nursery. So there's just a lot going on. It is crunch time. I'm gonna try to get up as much as I can on my blog and on YouTube before she arrives, but I also have to be realistic. If you have experience with a cesarean, please feel free to leave any advice in the comments section. It would be helpful to me. I think it would be helpful to other mamas as well. And I really hope I didn't like terrify anyone when it comes to my birth story. I honestly don't think mine is that bad. I really do feel that I was blessed and it could have gone a lot worse. And I don't look back at it as a bad experience at all. I came through healthy and Alani came through healthy, and that's what's most important to me. I think I will leave it at that though. So if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you are not yet subscribed, please do, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.